Power has always existed, not just in palaces or boardrooms, but in every relationship, every social circle, and every moment of ambition. The game of power isn't new. It's as old as humanity itself. From the rise of kings and empires to the quiet maneuvering of modern executives, one truth remains: constant power obeys laws. And those who ignore these laws often pay the price with humiliation, downfall, or obscurity. Imagine a chessboard. Every piece has its role, but only the players who think beyond the next move, who understand the subtle psychology of influence, truly win. In this video, we'll explore the 48 laws of power timeless lessons drawn from emperors, warriors, con artists, and politicians. By the end, you'll understand not only how power works, but how to protect yourself from those who wield it against you. Let's begin. Law 1. Never outshine the master. In Renaissance France, a young man named Nicolas Fouquet wanted to impress his king, Louis XIV. He built the most magnificent palace in the kingdom, filled it with art, music, and food fit for gods, and invited the king to a grand celebration. But instead of admiration, the young nobleman provoked envy. Louis XIV saw in Fouquet's brilliance a threat to his own glory. Days later, the king had him arrested. Fouquet spent the rest of his life in prison, punished not for treason, but for shining too brightly. The lesson? Always make those above you feel superior. Never flaunt your talent or success in a way that makes your master feel overshadowed. Power thrives on perception, and the higher-ups want to believe they're the source of your brilliance. Make them feel that way, and they'll reward you. Outshine them, and they'll destroy you. Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. History gives us countless examples, but none more famous than Emperor Constantine. He trusted no one more than his closest ally, Licinius. Yet when the empire was secure, Licinius turned on him, seeking his throne. The people we call friends often let emotion blur judgment. They expect too much, forgive too little, and betray easily. Enemies, on the other hand, are driven by necessity. When you make peace with an enemy, they must prove their loyalty, for their survival depends on it. The lesson: use enemies with caution, but with awareness. They often become your most reliable allies. And remember, the closer someone gets to your power, the more dangerous they become. Law 3. Conceal your intentions. Think of a poker table. The player who reveals his next move loses before he plays. In politics and strategy, it's the same. Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor of Germany, unified his nation through a web of lies, half-truths, and diplomacy. He would say one thing to France, another to Austria, and a third to Russia, each believing they were his favorite partner. Only when his plan was complete did the world realize his true intentions. The lesson: keep your goals hidden. When others can't predict your moves, they can't stop them. Let them think you are simple, harmless, or undecided, and then strike when least expected. Law 4. Always say less than necessary. Powerful people often speak little. Their silence creates mystery, and their words carry weight. Think of the legendary financier J.P. Morgan. He could end or create entire empires with a few words, but rarely spoke more than he needed. When asked how he maintained control over massive companies, he simply said, "I expect men to do what they're paid for. The fewer words you use, the more people project meaning onto them. Those who talk too much reveal their weaknesses, emotions, and insecurities." The lesson: silence is a weapon. Speak little, observe more, and let others reveal themselves first. Law 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Reputation is the foundation of power. Lose it, and you're defenseless. When Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, it wasn't just an act of defiance, it was a declaration of reputation. His name alone commanded loyalty from thousands of soldiers who would rather die than betray the legend he had built. In modern times, think of how quickly reputations can crumble. One wrong word, one scandal, one moment of weakness. Guard your name as if it were gold. Defend it fiercely, because once it's tarnished, no apology can fully restore it. Law 6. Court attention at all costs. In the age of social media, this law has never been more visible. Attention is power. It shapes perception and reality. Take P. T. Barnum, the showman who turned self-promotion into an art form. He knew that the public doesn't crave truth, they crave spectacle. He once said, "There's no such thing as bad publicity." And he was right. Even controversy can be used strategically because being noticed is always safer than being forgotten. The lesson: stand out. Draw attention. Never fade into the background. Obscurity is death to influence. Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Thomas Edison didn't invent every machine that bears his name, far from it. But he understood the power of ownership. He built teams of brilliant minds who worked under his direction, and when success came, it was Edison who stood before the world as the genius of invention. People remember the name that signs the creation, not the ones who built it. The lesson: let others do the heavy lifting while you master the art of orchestration. You don't need to be the smartest, just the one who directs the smart. Law 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. The one who chases loses leverage. The one who waits controls the terms. When Napoleon Bonaparte faced his enemies, he often appeared to retreat only to lure them into his chosen battlefield. He understood that control lies in patience. The same applies in life and business. When you make others come to you, whether it's through value, mystery, or opportunity, they play by your rules. The lesson: control begins with stillness. Never run after power, attract it. Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. Arguments rarely change minds, they only harden them. But results? Results speak for themselves. When Michael Jordan returned to basketball after retirement, he didn't argue about being the greatest. He showed it on the court. Every point, every victory silenced critics more effectively than any debate could. The lesson: let your results be your voice. Prove your strength through actions, not words. Law 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. Negativity is contagious. Surround yourself with the miserable, and soon their misfortune becomes your own. Consider the story of Napoleon's brother, Joseph. Despite having every advantage, his weakness and constant pessimism infected the emperor's campaigns. No empire can survive when its core is drained by despair. In modern life, this law applies to energy. Spend enough time around toxic people and you start thinking like them. The lesson: choose your company like you choose your food carefully. Stay near the radiant, avoid the cursed. Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. Power depends on need. The more others rely on you, the stronger your position. Steve Jobs understood this masterfully. Apple didn't just sell products, it built ecosystems. Once people joined the Apple world, they depended on it. Their devices, music, and even identity revolved around it. Dependency creates control. Give too much independence, and your influence evaporates. The lesson: be indispensable. Build relationships, systems, and skills others cannot live without. Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. The best deceivers appear trustworthy. Sometimes a single act of honesty can erase years of suspicion. In ancient China, a general once released his enemy's captured soldiers without harm. Days later, those same men betrayed their commander and joined him, believing his kindness proved his virtue. A small gesture can open the biggest doors. The lesson: give a little truth to hide a greater lie. A single act of generosity can disguise deeper motives and make your enemies lower their guard. Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy. In ancient Rome, a man named Cicero once asked a powerful general for help restoring his political reputation. He begged, appealed to fairness, even spoke of their friendship, but his pleas were ignored. It wasn't until Cicero reframed his request, showing how his success would benefit the general's legacy, that the favor was granted instantly. The lesson: people are motivated by gain, not compassion. When asking for help, never rely on pity or emotion. Show others how helping you helps them. Self-interest moves mountains, sympathy does not. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. During World War II, the British Secret Service often sent agents disguised as friendly businessmen into enemy territory. They appeared harmless, generous, and curious, gathering priceless information while smiling at their targets over dinner. In every arena of power, information is leverage. The more you know about others, their fears, motives, and desires, the more invisible strings you can pull. The lesson: listen more than you speak. Let others reveal their weaknesses while you reveal nothing. Charm opens doors that force never could. Law 15, crush your enemy totally. Julius Caesar once said, "Mercy is for those who pose no threat." After defeating Pompey's forces, he spared many of his rivals, but those he spared would later plot his assassination. Leaving an enemy alive, even weakened, gives them the time to recover, regroup, and retaliate. The lesson: when you must destroy an enemy, do it completely. Half measures invite revenge. Power, like fire, must consume its opposition or be extinguished by it. Law 16, use absence to increase respect and honor. Constant presence breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds contempt. When Coco Chanel reached the peak of her fame, she suddenly disappeared from the fashion world for years. When she returned, her absence had turned her into a legend. The world wasn't tired of her, it missed her. The lesson: withdraw strategically. Let absence sharpen others' desire for your presence. When you are always available, your value diminishes. Law 17, keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. During the Cold War, both the United States and the Soviet Union feared one thing more than weapons: unpredictability. Each side kept the other guessing, unsure whether a move was defense or provocation. In power dynamics, predictability is weakness. When people can read your next move, they stop respecting you and start manipulating you. The lesson: be unpredictable. Your unpredictability keeps others off balance, unsure how to respond, and that confusion is control. Law 18, do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. In medieval times, many kings built massive castles to feel safe, but isolation made them blind. While they hid behind walls, their enemies united outside. In the modern world, isolation happens differently through ego, pride, or fear of vulnerability. The more you cut yourself off, the less information, connection, and influence you have. The lesson: engage with the world. True safety comes not from isolation, but from awareness and adaptability. Law 19, know who you're dealing with, do not offend the wrong person. The streets of power are filled with hidden landmines, fragile egos disguised as allies. In the late 1800s, Nikola Tesla insulted Thomas Edison, calling his methods outdated. Edison never forgot it. Years later, when Tesla needed funding, every major investor mysteriously turned him away. Edison's silent revenge had begun. The lesson: before you challenge someone, study them. Some enemies are too emotional, too proud, or too ruthless to offend. The wrong insult to the wrong person can end an entire career. Law 20, do not commit to anyone. When Cardinal Richelieu served as France's most powerful minister, both kings and rivals sought his loyalty. He gave it to no one, only to his own vision of power. Those who commit too quickly become pawns in someone else's game. When you stay neutral, people compete for your favor. The lesson: remain independent. Your value multiplies when others cannot predict your allegiance. Law 21, play a sucker to catch a sucker, seem dumber than your mark. In the 1,970 seconds, a young investor named Warren Buffett often acted naive in negotiations. He'd ask basic questions, appear uncertain, and let others feel superior until they unknowingly revealed key information. By the time they realized his brilliance, it was too late. The lesson: power often hides behind humility. When you let others underestimate you, you win twice, first by learning, then by striking. Law 22, use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. In ancient China, a general named Han Xin faced an unbeatable enemy. Instead of fighting, he retreated, surrendering a city willingly. His opponent relaxed, dropped his guard, and celebrated. Days later, Han Xin struck back and crushed them completely. Surrender can be a strategy, not a defeat. When you bend temporarily, you save your strength for a decisive blow. The lesson: never fight battles you can't win. Yield when you must, then use time and patience to reclaim the upper hand. Law 23, concentrate your forces. A river that spreads wide loses its power, but when it flows through a narrow channel, it can carve through stone. Alexander the Great never fought multiple wars at once. He focused on one target, conquered it completely, and then moved on. His focus built one of history's greatest empires. In our time, energy is scattered, endless distractions, side projects, and noise. Power comes from focus, not movement. The lesson: pour your energy into one direction. Focus is the multiplier of force. Law 24, play the perfect courtier. Power is rarely taken, it's given subtly through charm and perception. In royal courts, survival depended on grace. The perfect courtier mastered the art of flattery, timing, and restraint. He never bragged, never argued, never appeared too ambitious, yet always rose higher. In today's corporate or social world, the same law applies. The ones who rise fastest aren't the loudest, they're the most diplomatic. The lesson: master etiquette, emotion, and flattery. Charm opens doors that brute strength never can. Law 25, recreate yourself. Powerful people are not born, they are created. Julius Caesar, once an unremarkable noble, forged a new identity as Rome's supreme leader through his charisma, strategy, and myth-making. He carefully shaped how others saw him, from the way he dressed to the way he spoke, crafting an image that seemed destined for greatness. In our modern age, stars like Madonna or Elon Musk follow the same principle. They reinvent themselves with precision, controlling the narrative of their identity. The lesson: don't accept the identity society assigns you. Recreate yourself deliberately. Power begins when you decide who you are and when others start to believe it. Law 26, keep your hands clean. When Machiavelli wrote The Prince, he warned rulers to do what must be done but never be seen doing it. Power often requires dirty work, yet those who perform it openly are destroyed by their own image. Kings once used loyal servants to carry out their harshest commands, allowing them to maintain the illusion of purity. In modern politics or business, the same rule applies. Let others take the blame while you preserve your reputation. The lesson: never let your hands appear dirty. If something ruthless must be done, let another carry the burden while you remain the symbol of virtue. Law 27, play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. Throughout history, the most powerful figures understood one thing humans crave: belief. When people feel uncertain, they look for someone to follow. In the 1,970 seconds, Apple's Steve Jobs transformed his company into more than a business. It became a movement, a cult of innovation. People didn't just buy products, they bought identity. Long before him, religious and political leaders used the same principle, promising hope, destiny, or salvation. The lesson: give people something to believe in, an idea larger than themselves. When they see you as the source of meaning, their loyalty will know no limits. Law 28, enter action with boldness. Nothing attracts power like boldness. Hesitation breeds doubt, both in your mind and in others. When Hernán Cortés landed in Mexico, he burned his own ships. His men had no way back, only forward. That single act of boldness turned fear into resolve, and history was changed forever. In life, confidence often matters more than correctness. Even a risky move taken decisively commands respect. The lesson: be bold. Fortune favors those who act with conviction, not caution. Law 29, plan all the way to the end. Those who act without foresight often win battles but lose wars. In chess, amateurs think about the next move. Masters think 10 moves ahead. Napoleon, though a tactical genius, began to lose his empire when he ignored this law, invading Russia without envisioning the long, bitter winter that awaited him. A single short-sighted decision destroyed years of conquest. The lesson: think in endings. Visualize the entire journey, not just the beginning. Power belongs to those who can see the final act before the curtain rises. Law 30, make your accomplishments seem effortless. Grace in execution is the art of concealment. When Michelangelo finished painting the Sistine Chapel, people were in awe of his divine gift. They saw perfection, but not the sleepless nights, the physical pain, or the mistakes hidden beneath the paint. He never showed his struggle, and that made his genius appear supernatural. In the modern world, the same rule applies. Great performers, athletes, and leaders hide the effort, showing only the results. The lesson: hide your toil. Let success appear natural, as if you were born for it. Effortlessness is the ultimate illusion of power. Law 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. True control doesn't come from force, it comes from framing the game. During the Cold War, both the U.S. and the Soviet Union offered smaller nations choices that all led back to their influence. Each side created the illusion of freedom while ensuring every outcome benefited them. In personal or business dealings, give people choices that lead to your preferred result. Let them feel empowered while you remain in control. The lesson: frame every situation so that, whichever way they turn, they serve your goal. Law 32, play to people's fantasies. Reality is harsh, fantasy is comforting. Powerful people understand that others don't want the truth, they want illusion. In 17th century France, courtiers flocked to King Louis XIV's lavish palace at Versailles because it made them feel close to magic. Louis became a living fantasy, the Sun King. Today, advertisers, influencers, and politicians use the same principle. They sell dreams, not facts. The lesson: give people what they wish were true. When you feed their fantasies, you gain their loyalty and their blindness. Law 33, discover each man's thumbscrew. Everyone has a pressure point, a weakness that opens the door to control. For Julius Caesar, it was ambition. For Cleopatra's lovers, it was desire. For many modern leaders, it's ego or fear of failure. The key is observation. Listen to what people brag about. Watch what they defend. In their pride or insecurity, you'll find their lever. The lesson: find the emotional trigger that moves others, and you'll move their world. Law 34, be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king, to be treated like one. A beggar who carries himself like a king will attract more respect than a king who behaves like a beggar. Christopher Columbus was not a nobleman, yet he acted like one, dressing regally, speaking boldly, and demanding recognition. His confidence made monarchs take him seriously, and soon they financed his dreams. Self-respect is contagious. When you carry yourself with quiet dignity, others mirror it back to you. The lesson: don't wait for validation. Project authority, and the world will reflect it. Law 35, master the art of timing. Timing separates the powerful from the impulsive. When Warren Buffett invests, he doesn't rush. He waits for the perfect moment, what he calls the fat pitch. He understands that power grows through patience. The samurai of feudal Japan also knew this. A single swing at the right moment was worth 1,000 premature attacks. The lesson: wait for your moment, then strike swiftly. Timing, not speed, determines victory. Law 36, disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. Desire gives power to what you cannot control. When you obsess over rejection, envy, or loss, you hand your energy to the very thing that weakens you. When the painter Edouard Manet was rejected by the Paris Salon, he didn't beg for acceptance. He hosted his own exhibition, redefining the art world on his own terms. By ignoring the gatekeepers, he made them irrelevant. The lesson: what you can't have, ignore. Your indifference steals its power and makes you unshakable. Law 37, create compelling spectacles. Throughout history, the powerful have understood one truth. People don't remember logic, they remember drama. When the French Emperor Napoleon held his coronation, he crowned himself in front of the Pope. It wasn't just ceremony, it was theater. The act told the world, I answer to no one. In our modern world, spectacle rules the screen. Whether it's a company launch or a political rally, visuals shape emotion. Elon Musk doesn't just sell technology, he stages events that make innovation feel like magic. The lesson: people believe what they see. Use image and drama to magnify your presence. A well-crafted spectacle makes power unforgettable. Law 38. Think as you like, but behave like others. The world punishes those who flaunt their difference too openly. In Renaissance Italy, philosopher Giordano Bruno spoke boldly of infinite universes and defied the church, and he was burned alive for it. Contrast that with Galileo. He shared similar ideas but disguised them with flattery, humor, and submission. He lived, and his truths survived. The lesson: think freely, but adapt outwardly. Blend in when needed. You can't influence the system if you're cast out of it. Law 39, stir up waters to catch fish. Anger blinds reason, and when others lose control, you gain it. During the American Civil War, Abraham Lincoln often used humor to diffuse critics. When rivals insulted him, he laughed instead of reacting. His composure made them furious, and in their anger, they exposed their weaknesses. The lesson: keep your calm while others boil. If you can provoke emotion in your opponent while staying cold, victory is already yours. Law 40, despise the free lunch. Anything free often hides a trap. When the Trojans accepted the wooden horse from the Greeks, they thought it a gift until their city burned. Modern free offers work the same way. Every favor, every handout carries invisible strings of obligation. The lesson: pay your own way. Independence is worth more than generosity. What costs nothing is often the most expensive in the end. Law 41, avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. When Alexander the Great died, his successors tried to rule his empire, but none could match his shadow. Following a legend is dangerous because comparison is inevitable. Better to start fresh, to create your own path, not walk in someone else's. Steve Jobs' successor at Apple, Tim Cook, understood this. He didn't imitate Jobs' charisma, he built his own legacy of discipline and scale. He honored the vision, but became his own kind of leader. The lesson: never inherit a legacy without reshaping it. Forge your identity. Don't live in another's myth. Law 42, strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. Power structures often revolve around a single source. When Genghis Khan faced a rebellious tribe, he didn't fight every warrior, he targeted the chieftain. Once the leader fell, the rest surrendered. In business, politics, or even social circles, the same pattern repeats. Disrupt the influencer, and the followers lose direction. The lesson: identify the source of strength and remove it. Cut off the head, and the body collapses. Law 43, work on the hearts and minds of others. Domination through fear is temporary. Influence through emotion lasts forever. When Nelson Mandela became South Africa's president, he faced decades of division. He didn't seek revenge, he sought reconciliation. By appealing to dignity, forgiveness, and unity, he won loyalty not by force, but by heart. The lesson: true power isn't control, it's connection. Win people emotionally, and their loyalty becomes self-sustaining. Law 44, disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Mirroring is one of the most subtle psychological weapons. In diplomacy, negotiators often repeat a counterpart's tone and posture, and within minutes, tension drops. But mirroring can also provoke. When an opponent sees his own arrogance reflected back at him, it disarms and enrages him. The lesson: reflect others' behavior to expose their truth. By turning their actions back on them, you control the rhythm of the interaction. Law 45, preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. In France, King Louis XVI tried to reform too quickly, abolishing privileges and taxes without preparing the aristocracy. The shock ignited revolution and the guillotine. Even positive change introduced too fast breeds resistance. People crave progress, but fear disruption. The lesson: change gradually. Guide people forward while making them believe they're staying in control. Law 46, never appear too perfect. Perfection inspires envy, and envy breeds enemies. When the painter Raphael became the darling of Renaissance Rome, rivals whispered that his beauty and grace were unnatural divine. Even, they envied him until his downfall. Show a flaw, and you seem human. Hide every weakness, and others will try to find one for you. The lesson? Perfection alienates. Relatability attracts. Let people see traces of struggle enough to seem real, not untouchable. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. Many lose power not from failure, but from excess. After conquering much of Europe, Napoleon could have consolidated his empire. Instead, greed and overreach drove him into Russia, where his army froze and his empire collapsed. The same happens in life. People win a fight, then push too far and undo it all. The lesson: know when to stop. Success is only victory when it ends at the right moment. Law 48. Assume formlessness. Water has no shape, yet it can erode stone. It adapts, flows, and survives. Bruce Lee once said, "Be like water." He understood that the ultimate power is flexibility to change shape without losing essence. Rigid people break when the world shifts. The adaptable bend, flow, and endure. The lesson: never cling to one identity, one strategy, or one structure. Stay fluid. Formlessness makes you impossible to corner and therefore impossible to defeat. Conclusion: the dance of power. Power is not evil. It is energy neutral, like fire. It can warm, illuminate, or destroy, depending on who wields it. The wise never chase power blindly. They study it. They master its laws. They understand that power, at its core, is the art of influence, of guiding perception, controlling emotion, and commanding respect without force. And as you walk through life's battles, in business, in relationships, in your personal journey, remember this: the 48 laws are not about domination. They're about awareness, because the one who understands power is never its victim.